Whenever a high-profile MMA fighter goes over to boxing and gets beat up, all the MMA fanboys invariably say the same kind of stuff like, oh, but if this was a real fight, why don't they come to MMA? Well, because that's dumb, and I don't think that anyone that knows anything about this stuff feels the need to ask those questions. But Claressa Shields, like the best female boxer, has decided to answer these stupid questions that no one should be asking, and is having an MMA fight with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and professional MMA fighter named Brittney Elkin. But let me go ahead and spoil this for you. I'll spoil every YouTube video and every sports network analysis that's going to be done between now and then. Oh, if Brittney can get Claressa to the ground, Claressa Shields will really have her work cut out for her. Oh, but if Claressa Shields can land some punches, then Brittney Elkin will have her work cut out for her. Like, duh. Like, whoa, amazing insight. This thing goes deeper than that. And I mean way deeper. I'm going to tell you some things in this video that I don't think anyone else is going to talk about. Like, for one, Claressa Shields is not even that good a boxer. And I think she's kind of stupid for doing this. Two, Brittney Elkin is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, but she was handpicked to lose this. I'm going to explain why that belt doesn't mean as much as you think it does. Because this fight is not going to be contested on the feet, and it's not going to be contested on the ground. I don't watch a lot of boxing, and I've never seen a women's boxing match ever until I decided to make this video, and I tried to watch some of Claressa Shields' matches, and they're not very good. Like, the matches themselves suck. And this isn't an insult to her, which I know that sounds funny, but I'll explain. Oh, and this isn't, in case you're wondering, this isn't like I don't like women's boxing. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're women. Women's MMA is awesome. It's amazing. It's the best it's ever been. It's getting better all the time, and oftentimes I enjoy watching women's MMA more than men's MMA. So it's not about that either. The strength of a sport and divisions within that sport are defined by the quality of its competitors. Like, the prestige of a championship is determined by the contenders for that championship. And that isn't just between genders, but even in weight classes. You know, like, you can have a stacked weight class where, like, that championship means a lot because everybody in there is tough. So the reason that this isn't an insult to Claressa is because, and even she would tell you this, no one can compete with her. No one's even close. That's why, I guess, that's why she's going to MMA, which is admirable, if unintelligent. But no one's even close to her. Without the pressure of competition, there's no impetus to improve. So she doesn't need to develop a good jab or a diverse game plan. She's got a telegraphed right that never lands and a non-telegraphed right that lands every time. Maybe that, well, I don't know. Maybe that's the strategy. That's pretty good. Brittney Elkin is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and has been a mixed martial arts fighter for a while. She's 3-6. That's not very good. But she's fought on big shows, and that brown belt is what's going to worry everyone, because everyone's like scared of what's going to happen when they hit the ground. If you have a rudimentary understanding of grappling and of mixed martial arts in general, you think that maybe picking a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is like a nightmare scenario. But pump your brakes. Brittney Elkin was handpicked, and that brown belt doesn't mean as much as you think it does. Common wisdom is that you lose a belt every time you get punched in the face. So if you're a brown belt, you get punched in the face, you become a purple belt, you get punched again, become a blue belt, you get punched a third time, you're a white belt, and we're even. So 3 punches to the face kind of nullifies that. That's the shorthand way of explaining it. Obviously, there's more variables. That's just really a fun way for strikers to talk about grapplers. But that's not really a game plan. Nullifying grappling with striking is way less reliable than nullifying striking with grappling. But the reason Brittney Elkin was handpicked to lose this is because she keeps her head dead center, locked on. Like, her head's like on a gimbal. Like, she moves around and her head stays right there where the punches go. She doesn't move her head at all. That's one benefit of this opponent for Claressa Shields. The other is that when she pushes people up against the fence, she doesn't do anything. She's not super active. And guess what? When Claressa Shields gets pushed up against something, she's not going to be very active either. We already know this because she doesn't do anything in boxing when she gets pushed up against the ropes. She just relaxes and waits for the break. But they're definitely going to teach her how to do that. She's training at Jackson Wink, where Holly Holm and John Jones train. Oh, here's a new point. That's probably the worst place that she could be training. Let's get into that. I totally forgot to talk about this in the intro. Yes, she's training at Jackson Wink, which if you're unfamiliar, you could basically shorthand it as like one of, if not the best place to train MMA. Claressa should not be there. That's not the right place for her. This isn't the right fight for her. This is all very, very, very dumb. I keep saying dumb and stupid, and people are going to be like, oh my God, that's really mean. But let's look at when boxers go to MMA. Like James Toney. Is it mean to describe him as not an intelligent person? Like, am I off base there? This is a thing dumb people do, and you might be like, what about Holly Holm? Holly Holm was a professional boxer. No, Holly Holm was a kickboxer that excelled in kickboxing, and a boxer that excelled in boxing, and an MMA fighter that excelled in MMA. She was all those things. Claressa Shields, just like James Toney, is just a boxer going to MMA. It's not even just the grappling, the kicking. Oh my God, the kicking. Claressa Shields went on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan was telling her like how good her kicks looked. Oh my God, your kicks looked good. Chael Sonnen, Uncle Chael, he did a video saying, well, she looked good on the pads. No, she didn't. Joe Rogan, no, she didn't. Chael, no, she didn't. You guys should know better. She doesn't look good kicking. She might look better now, but in those videos where you thought she looked good kicking, she did not look good kicking. She looked like crap. She looked like garbage kicking. That's okay. She's not a kickboxer. You think she looked good because she looked good for someone just starting out. I have soccer moms that look better on kick shields than that, right? She looked better than the average person for the amount of time that she'd been doing it because she is a world-class athlete. She's going to learn these things very quickly. She's super committed. She's all in. She pays attention. She's already an athlete, so there's already a shorthand there. When you take an athlete from one sport and put them in another sport, as long as they come to you with an empty cup, you can teach them things much more quickly than you can teach regular mortals. But her kicks were not good. They just weren't. Objectively, they were bad. They might be better now, but if I was part of that, I'd say just don't kick. Do not kick. Don't kick. You don't need to kick. Your strength is in your hands. We need to defend the takedown, and we need to always have a good dominant position in the clinch. Don't kick. But whatever. She's learning to kick. I wouldn't even check kicks. I would just step into a right hand. Anyway, I digress. I'm not her coach. Jackson Wink's staff is her coach, and therein lies the problem. Because Joe Rogan asked her, what did it feel like the first time you tapped somebody out in rolling? And she was like, oh, I never have. And this was like a couple months ago. Her fight's in June, by the way. A couple months ago, she had never tapped anyone out. Oh my God. And then she explained she's only rolling with the instructor. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking like, wow, she's rolling against the best. Of course she's not going to tap him. He's just like, putting her in positions and making her work her way out of them. And yes, but that's not the only reason that she's only rolling with him. The other reason is because you've got a world-class athlete that makes a lot of money doing this and is going to make you a lot of money doing this, and you can't just shove them in there with yo-hos who are going to try to either prove something or don't have a lot of control or have they have their own competition coming up, so they're in there to go hard. You do it to protect them so they don't get all the bumps and all the bruises. Brittney Elkin didn't learn to grapple that way. She learned to grapple with girls trying to kill her all the time and with dudes trying to kill her half the time. She developed the bone density, the muscle density, the mental toughness, the composure, the breathing, and this is a big one, a big thing that doesn't exist at all in boxing, that isometric strength. When Claressa Shields gets pushed up against the ropes, like all boxers, they go limp to some degree. They might tighten up at certain times, but generally you can relax. You're contracting to punch, but you don't ever grab somebody and hold on to them tight for 30 seconds to a minute. Jiu-jitsu people do all the time. She's going to grab a hold of Claressa Shields, and she's going to grind her out. And Claressa's not going to be conditioned to respond correctly to that. She'll know the right move. She's learning the correct movements and the correct techniques, the correct way to escape, the correct way to establish position. She's learning all that. She's doing it very well. And she's probably even progressed to the point where she could teach somebody all of those things. She could tell me how to get out of side control. She could probably tell me how to re-guard, and she could probably tell me how to get an underhook or overhook and work my way to my feet. She's probably been taught all that and been taught the correct way, and she can probably execute all those techniques when she's rolling and drilling with her instructor. So she's got people that know what they're talking about, reinforcing that she's doing the right thing. They're telling her she's doing a good job. They're telling her that what she's doing is correct. And they might even really believe it. And it might even really feel right. But when you roll with your coach or you spar lightly with Holly Holm, everything is very smooth. Everything goes correctly. Everything goes according to plan. They have not and are not and probably should not throw Claressa Shields in there with some girl that don't know who she is that's going to try to kill her. Probably shouldn't do that. But you probably also shouldn't make your first fight a high-profile fight in the Professional Fighters League, the PFL, which is like up there. Brittney Elkin has already paid her dues. She's already had her cauliflower ear and her bloody gums and her broken toes. She's already had all that. None of the jiu-jitsu that Claressa Shields has learned is going to manifest itself in this fight. Zero. Zilch. Nothing. Even though she has world-class training partners, champions, and coaches of champions, there's just a thing that they don't get because their bodies don't work that way anymore. Their minds don't work that way anymore. They're just operating at too high a level, and Claressa Shields, she's just not. She has not developed the necessary attributes and the necessary skills under stress. But this entire fight will really be won or lost up against the cage. And Brittney Elkin is not very good when she pushes people up against the cage. Historically, she's not very good up against the cage. Claressa Shields has zero experience being pushed up against something and having to work her way out of it. I have no doubt that they're working on that at Jackson Wink with her and that they're spending a good amount of time, and they know that, even though the casuals and the MMA fanboys and the boxing fans, like, even though they might not get that very important distinction of how the clinch is different than the striking and the ground. It's not just a combination of the two. It's a totally different discipline. They get that, but they're not going to grind her. They're not going to shove their forehead as hard as they can into her jaw and attempt to dislocate it. They're not going to grind their braids into her neck to irritate her. They're not going to knee her in the thigh as hard as they can. They're going to tell her to be mindful of all these things, but they're not going to do it to her. They're not really going to try to kill her in training. People have much more recently been trying to kill Brittney Elkin in training and in MMA fights. So while she's not very good in the clinch and she doesn't move her head, she just has to get a hold of her one time. And I know that sounds like my original criticism of what the analysis of this fight was going to be, but it is true. I just wanted to illustrate the real reasons that it's true. Not because, like, ooh, grappling beats striking, duh. It's way more complicated than that. And I think Claressa Shields, being such a beginner, lacks the perspective to understand how complicated this game is. And I think her coaches are so advanced, they lack the perspective to understand what she needs to be doing. If you ask me what she should do, well, what she should do is just start over, empty cup from scratch, fight on like a regional show, like maybe even something that is on Fight Pass, right? I understand that they've all got to make money and that this fight, and this is like a big high-profile fight. She's probably going to make a lot from this. I get that. She should start in a lower promotion against a less seasoned opponent. Like, her boxing experience does not translate as much to MMA as people would like to believe. Just like all those MMA fighters' experience doesn't really translate well to boxing. I would say that she does not need to kick, and I would say that she needs to spend the vast majority of her training time up against the fence defending takedowns and scrambling to her feet up against the fence. Because as far as, like, once she's on the ground, I don't think that there's enough time to get her ready for that. Brittney Elkin just has to learn to move her head. That's all she has to learn. She doesn't have to worry about kicks. Claressa's kicks suck. She doesn't have to worry about takedowns. Claressa's not going to try, though that would be, whoo. What if Claressa Shields just came out and threw a bomb right hand and a blast double behind it? That would be interesting. I mean, it would be a bad idea because she would get instantly swept, but it would be fun to see. The crowd would pop for it. Claressa Shields has to get so many things right for this fight to go her way. She has to get it right every single exchange, bell to bell. She has to be perfect to win this fight. Brittney Elkin can totally screw up everything. She just has to get it right one time.